Hello, everybody, and welcome to a glorious day in May. And in fact, it is Memorial Day weekend, so it's the last weekend in May, and it is the perfect day for shooting Marvin Gardens May 2022. And in fact, that's what we are doing right this minute. But before we get started with that, let's take a look at when we were maxed out with seedlings earlier this month. So it's early May, May 9th to be exact, and I just wanted to show you before I get doing some planting outside what it looks like when we're all full up of seedlings. Inside here we got peppers and some brassicas and some of the stuff that we had to replant because of early failures, and then just planted yesterday. Up here are 2 flats of corn and the pole beans in one of the trays, and then some flowers and some cucumbers that we got as a trial packet. So that's what's going on in here. And outside in the greenhouse we got all kinds of stuff going here. Too much to try to list all of them, but you can see I've got some seedlings that are well on their way and pretty much ready to get into the garden pretty quickly. So I'm not sure what all I'm going to plant today, but the population in here will be decreased significantly over the next couple of days because, like I said, just about everything's ready to go in. But that's what it looks like when we're like full up, loaded with seedlings, getting ready to go into the open garden. Okay, now we can go back to the actual May garden video. Again, it's a gorgeous day, and let's take a look around. You know what I mean? I'm going to switch this around. 1, 2, 3, around, and make sure that everything is focused in the right area. And we're going to start over here where we always start, which is basically overrun with blooming pond irises of 2 varieties. The yellow ones, of course, and these purplish ones, which are smaller but just as gorgeous. And then, of course, we've got Coco, who's standing guard over the Asian leeks, or I forget what the other name is. I always do that, don't I? And really, this is mostly turned into a pond iris bed. It was originally, as you may recall, the herb garden, but once I put the pond irises in there, that was kind of the end of that. So, let's go on, because of course I do have another herb garden over in this direction. But we'll come right over here, and yes, more pond irises blooming, and yes, more pond irises blooming. And by the way, all these yellow pond irises are from just one collection of plants that I got many years ago, and they're just so prolific that they grow like weeds, and they are now all over the property. But anyway, here we are in bed number 1, where I put some pond irises. I allowed them to grow here right at the end of the bed as sort of a border. But these are radishes, daikon radishes, which are the big ones that are supposed to be a kind of a keto-friendly potato substitute. We'll see how they turn out. And then we got a row of turnips also, kind of a root vegetable that's a a keto potato substitute, or at least it works like some. Then we got two rows of carrots here. One's an earlier variety, one's a later variety. They are looking great, but they won't be harvestable for quite some time yet. Now, right in the middle here is just a couple of leftover summer squash plants. I think they're a zucchini variety, but I'm not absolutely sure. But I hate throwing away good seedlings and even leggy seedlings, and so those ended up there. Now, here's 3 rows of bib lettuce, all planted at least 2 or 3 weeks apart, but you wouldn't know it from looking at them because they're all coming in and all threatening to bolt because they're standing up tall like that. But anyway, they look great. We're going to pull some tonight because we're doing a Memorial Day barbecue, and we'll have a nice garden fresh salad to go with it. Next comes the brassicas. I believe that's broccoli on the left side, and then we've got kalettes, which is something I'm trying new, as you may recall. Supposed to be a cross between kale and Brussels sprouts. We'll see how that happens. And then we got a few varieties of cauliflower, and I think one of these rows is also cabbage. Maybe that first one beyond the kalettes is cabbage. And finally, planted a little later than usual, Brussels sprouts. Now, and that was just because of the instructions on the seed packet. But they seem to be doing fine. And these are leftover tomato plants. Again, I'm not really sure of which variety is which, but I just couldn't bear to throw away the seedlings, and I had some space, so I planted them there. Now, these are cucumbers, which I almost never grow because whenever I grow them, there's more than I know how to deal with. So, but these came as a free trial packet, so I thought I'd go ahead and plant them, and we'll see what happens. We'll just try to eat them and stay ahead of them. Now, walking back here to what has now become the proper herb bed, we got basil there. That one's doing pretty good. The one right next to it, you probably can't even see because it's not doing so hot. But next to that, we got some rosemary happening, doing good. Chives, not an overly impressive cropping of chives, but you can see they're coming in, and they're starting to bloom a little bit, which is what they do in May. And beyond that, some rosemary seems to be doing fine, and another outcropping from the original planting of what is it? Asian leeks. I always have a trouble because it's got 2 names, and I confuse the names, get them mixed up, and anyway, but you know what it is. And then we got some a sage here doing pretty well. This is a parsley plant. I don't know what variety, but it wintered over. And then these are the parsley plants that we started from seed this year. They're doing pretty good. I had to restart them, but these new ones are coming in, and that's the beginning of what I like to do in the herb garden, which is in order plant parsley, if Cassie doesn't trample them, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, which is looking pretty good too. So that's where that's at, and we'll take a quick look over here at the pet memorial area, which is a little bit overrun with pond irises and some grass and stuff like that too. So I need to come in here and clean that up a little bit, but the sleeping dachshund still looks peaceful, and that's what we like. Here's some more pond irises. There's pond irises all outside the perimeter of the fence. The tiger lilies haven't started to come in yet, but pond irises everywhere. I figure as long as they're going to grow, I might as well put them in places where we can enjoy them when they're blooming. This is looking a little bit beyond to the west of the garden, and it's not really obvious, but there is quite a bit of moisture under there. In fact, it's so wet it's non-mowable, but not too bad. And I think I see the French ballerina actually off in the distance there, doing a little weeding. And of course, she's been doing a little mowing, the unending task of the warm weather season. Now, there is Cassie, and Cassie is out here as that is the requirement for shooting the garden video. So anyway, let's keep going. More pond irises blooming. This is when they bloom, is May. In the grow house, we do have finally the Cinderella pumpkins, Rouge Vif, Tom something or other. One of these days I'm going to remember exactly what the French pronunciation is, but they're doing fine in there so far, and we've added soil enhancements to that are supposed to be especially good for pumpkins and any cucurbits. So we'll see how that does. Anyway, more on that later. Here we've got the alternate herb garden. So I've got some parsley, some basil, some sage, and some rosemary there. And then this is the other place I've allowed pond irises to crop up. Now, this is a row of okra, and you can see that it's in various stages of health or lack thereof, because the soil amendments that I was talking about that I've used on a lot of the plantings here, apparently there was something that Frankie, who's right over there, speak of the devil, thought was smelled pretty interesting, so he ended up digging up half my okra seedlings. So that's why I've got another set of seedlings going on inside under the lights, and so I'll fill out this row with the survivors with the ones that are healthy from inside. Next here we got a variety of dwarf sunflowers. The label's knocked over, so I don't really know what they were. Oh, it says dwarf firecracker, so I don't know, that sounds promising, and they're doing just fine. 2 rows of scallions, which also are doing nicely, and then we're on to onions, which are questionable, I guess. They just, it's always frustratingly slow, but then they seem to take off in August, so hopefully they'll take off in August. Obviously we have some weeding to do. Now, here is what wintered over from last year, which I have mistakenly been calling calendula all this time, because last November I got confused on what was planted where. But these are what the heck are they called? Bachelor buttons, that's right. The common name is bachelor buttons, and I got 2 varieties here, the blue florist, which are pretty darn obvious, almost an iridescent blue, and black button, which are those sort of a very dark plum color that might just as well be black. Anyway, not calendula. They are, in fact, bachelor's buttons, and I can't remember the actual biological name, so forgive me on that. Maybe I'll put it as a subtitle. Anyway, I got another cat, Frankie. Do not trample the. This is another variety of dwarf sunflower, but this I just labeled as dwarf sunflower, so I have no idea what the variety is. And then got a nice row of borage going here, which are little blue edible flowers. And then, not that you can see much, but this is the rest of our onion beds. They're doing okay, they're surviving. It's just, I'm just kind of waiting for them to sort of take off, because as I recall in June, they look fantastic when they've really decided to take off. Now, I did have kind of a shortage of onions, so on this one row where I ran out of onions, I planted a spare pepper plant and a delphinium, which I got from my my stepdaughter, and so we're going to see if we can get that to happen. And there's my shadow. I suppose I could say hello. And then we're on to bed number 3 here, and this is peppers, not neat rows of peppers, because just this is an odd-shaped end of this bed, and that's a volunteer sunflower right there that's coming up that I might let go, I might transplant. More about that later. Anyway, we've got all our peppers here in neat little rows. They all seem to be doing pretty well, even if maybe a slow start. And then this is, speaking of sunflowers, a row of sunflowers that Vanina pulled up when she was weeding to make room for the corn bed, but didn't want to throw them away. So these are all volunteers that came up from last year's crop of sunflowers, and sometimes they do okay when they're transplanted, sometimes they don't. I just transplanted them today, and we'll see how they do. Other than that, we have a row of straw flower, which is looking pretty good, and 2 rows of 2 varieties of calendula, one that I ordered and one that came as a free trial packet. And again, it's pretty obvious that Frankie, why don't you do some weeding while you're there, because we need it. Then this last row is eggplant, and some of them are doing better than others, like this one here is doing great. That one there is not doing so great, but we'll see how they go. At least they look promising. Now, this is bed number 4, and it is corn. As you may recall, I decided to grow corn this year, even though it's not a keto-friendly vegetable, but I love growing corn. Now, you'll notice that some of these corn plants are much higher than the others of these, and that's because the germination that I got out of my the flat that I planted, or the flats that I planted of corn, was not so great. So I had to replant, and that works out okay, because I'm going to have 5 or so rows of corn that come in maybe 10 days before, or 2 weeks maybe even before the second planting of corn starts coming in. So that'll actually be nice. I got about 154 plants or so, maybe 5 or 6. Hey, no digging there, boy. Hey, sorry, hold on. Nope, 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 no digging. That's sometimes a garden hazard when you have dachshunds. They're pretty good most of the time, but every once in a while, blah, blah. All right, so now we're on to one, two, three, four, five, bed number 5. And on this end, we have summer squash. I've had, most of them are surviving well. I've had to replace several plants. You know, like when they're looking like that, there's some question as to whether they will ever come around, but I think there's a pretty good chance. And like I say, I have a couple extras planted over in bed number 1. So hopefully amongst them all we'll get a nice crop. Then we're on to tomatoes, and I've got 4 varieties. Well, I actually have more than 4 varieties of tomatoes planted here. No cages up yet, but that's going to be the next task. They're just staked for now to protect them from the wind. I'm not even going to recite the varieties to you, but the one on the far end over there, that's a some sort of an heirloom variety that, again, my stepdaughter gave to me, and it's actually looking pretty healthy, so that's good. And at the end of this bed we got pole beans. I got one variety that's just a kind of a typical green bean, and the other variety that's a yard-long variety that we've grown before and have liked. So I think they're called red noodles. So we'll see how those do. And our perennial bee balms are coming up just fine. They had been moved permanently to over here because I thought it's a good place for them. I probably should put some right over there too to match, but I didn't. Now, that brings us to the Sky Manor Marsh. And again, right now dominated with blooming pond irises, but we have also new cattails plants coming up all over the place, and they've even snuck into the garden proper. That's one right there. And that's a cluster of them in front of the irrigation system here, and even that's one right there and one outside the fence. So they're doing fine, and they're expanding, which is just what we like them to do. Cattails are just kind of fun to grow. Now, I'm not going to walk out there, but there's the asparagus patch. It's in much better shape than it was, I think, the last time in April. But it already needs to be weeded again. And we've harvested, I'd say a dozen or so asparagus stalks already. I'm a little concerned because the asparagus that is coming up, the shoots that are coming up, the ones that we let grow, you know, to develop their roots underneath, it's much sparser than I was hoping. So I may have to go in and do some new planting this fall with the roots, etc. But just to fill things out, hopefully. But we still are getting a harvest, and we will for on and off probably for the next month or so. So that's all good. Yeah, we got the fence planter boxes planted with marigolds, because they often get neglected watering wise, and they're fairly tolerant to that, at least. Now here in the fire pit area, which is looking much more inviting than it was, I think, the last time we were here. It's interesting. These here are I think they're violas. I'm sorry. And they're all volunteers. In other words, they were planted, I believe, in this pot, and they dumped seeds, and the seeds were very robust, so they kind of come up all over the place, even if it's in the middle of, you know, in between pavers, you know what I mean? So that's pretty nice. And our succulents are coming in nicely here, and got a pond up, a pot of, guess what, pond irises. And I planted some marigolds in some places that nothing was already coming up. This is, oh, am I going to be able to come up with this name? Nope, I'm not. Okay, so anyway, they are perennials also blooming, and maybe I'll stick the name in a subtitle or something, since my mind isn't quite working. And there's some bee balm planted in that planter just in front of the propane grill. And this is originally planted from seed zinnias, which are already showing buds, and so they're going to be blooming in no time whatsoever. So there you have the fire pit area, and again, just a gorgeous day. And we got the hammock out already, and the water features are going. They're not quite as populated as they were last year, because I intentionally did not put the big pond irises in there, because they just, they take over everything. And I have yet to go pick up some actual pond plants from the local co-op. And I'll put some floaters in there for that too. This is my my one crop of strawberries, and it's actually showing a bunch of strawberries. They seem to do just fine, wintering over in this container. All I have to do is try to keep ahead of the birdies, because everybody likes strawberries, and they're even keto friendly if you don't have too many of them. All right, so that brings us to the pond, and the pond is in peak azalea bloom, and everything that should be green is green. That's a floater with some, I don't know, I guess that's just some kind of swamp grass. And you'll notice I've got the impatiens planted in that heavily shaded hanging pot, and they seem to do well in there as long as I can remember to water them. Got some more marigolds planted around, some more blooming azaleas. Our fairies pretty much stay put there now that I found a good place where they don't always blow over. And then you can see the is that argyritum? I can't remember the name of those purplish plants that just love being soaked, and so they do well on the waterfall there. This is some other kind of water plant that comes back year after year and kind of grows like weeds. And there's little blooms that are kind of attractive, but they're not all that great. And the water itself is, I mean, you can see the koi under there, but it's a little cloudy because we just had some rain. And but all in all, in pretty good shape, and it's been surprisingly clear, actually, for spring, which is sometimes difficult in keeping everything clear. This is the other place that I do the impatiens, and right now it's soaked with sun, but for the most part it gets shade. which is kind of what they like. I've got some leftover tomatoes planted here, because like I said, I can't bear to throw seedlings away. And then we've got, these are asparagus coming up, and we did actually harvest a few asparagus from this bed too, amazingly enough. They come up pretty sparsely these days, but at least they're showing up. And nice dianthus that came back, wintered over, and I've also added, where they didn't come back, I added some seedlings that I started from seed earlier. So, golly, is there anything else to show you? I don't know. I think maybe, I think we're done, hopefully I've got some drone footage, and also, of the drone footage that I do, just a second, no, I'm coming out. A lot of it is over the backwoods area, the place that we call the Enchanted Forest. And I have a trail cam out there, and also when I'm walking back there, every once in a while I shoot a little video. So maybe I will have also intercut here someplace some of that footage too. So if I did already and you were wondering what it was, that's what it is. But that's going to do it for May 2022 Marvin Gardens, and we're going to see you all hopefully in June, which is when a garden really turns into a full-fledged, gorgeous, happening, real live garden. Not that we're actually pretty close there right now, but it's still a fledgling garden right now. All right, so we'll see you guys in June, and hope your guys' summer is getting off to a wonderful start. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.